Hello and welcome to another edition of Candid Conversations. I'm your host, Edward Woods III. And this evening, we have two dynamic commissioners that will be joining us today. Both of them have served as chairpersons, as a chairperson for the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Joining me today is none other than Commissioner Brittney Kellom from Detroit and Commissioner Stephen Lett from Interlochen, Michigan. You will enjoy the wit and wisdom and the directness of each and every one of both of these fine individuals, very transparent and very assured of themselves, and bring a much needed perspective to the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Commissioner Kellom, Commissioner Lett, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, Edward. That's a warm welcome. Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Edward. Glad to be here. Hello, Commissioner Kellom, and hello, everybody out in the ether.
You know what? That is your moniker. If you don't say ether, I know it's not Commissioner Stephen Lett. So we appreciate the authentication that you are here. Commissioner Kellom, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience and share with them a little bit about who you are and what gets you excited about the MICRC.
Well, like Mr. Edward Woods III, our Communication and Outreach Director just said, my name is Brittney Kellom. I am just Commissioner Kellom now. I just finished being chair and was vice chair previously. What gets me excited about the MICRC is the opportunity to connect with my community. I get really excited to be a Detroiter and to have the feedback from those in my community. And it's also been a wonderful opportunity to learn about the redistricting process as a citizen.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Lett.
Thank you, Edward. My name is Steve Lett. I am an attorney, semi-retired. I live in Interlochen, Michigan, so I handle the Upper Peninsula and the north of Michigan. I worked and born and raised in Lansing, Michigan, so probably everything from Jackson north I've had a hand in knowing about. What gets me excited about the commission is that finally citizens are drawing the lines and not politicians. Probably when we get all done, they might wish they were back to the politicians. The old saying is, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, and nobody knew us.
I like that. Please share, today we're talking about the myths about redistricting. I know one of the myths is with regards to service agreements. So Commissioner Lett, can you share a little bit about that?
Well, by service agreements, are you talking about interagency or inter agreements between different communities?
Yes, like police and fire.
Well, it's not going to affect them at all. Just because a line changes in a district doesn't mean that, as we often joke, that you can't cross the line. You're going to operate the same way you have in the past. I've heard a lot of people say, well, we want one representative or one state senator, or we want one congressman, and if you do it a certain way, then we'll end up with two. Well, I always thought having two people on your side was better than one person.
Commissioner Kellom, what is your biggest myth that you've probably encountered or dealt with about redistricting?
Myth, that's a good one. So I don't know if I would say like the biggest myth. There's always going to be a small gap, a learning gap between the commission's work and the public's understanding about the process. It's just, they're just not immersed in the same way that we are in the material, in the process, and understanding why we're drawing the lines, the metrics, all of those things. And I think what I would say to that is, this is a wonderful opportunity for the community to be involved and to kind of go back and watch those meetings and all the conversations, especially as we got in the throes of mapping, and to see what change, what great change the commission really has been working on and really taking into account what folks have been saying. So maybe not a myth, maybe a misunderstanding that we're not listening, because we did a great deal of understanding what folks were wanting to see in their neighborhoods and in their cities and places of residence.
Well, we have the second round of public hearings. The commission has been very adamant about hashtag show up, speak up to assist the commission, and hashtag draw fair maps. Obviously, it's not a done deal. We start our second round of public hearings tomorrow at the TCF Center in Detroit at 1:00 p.m. Doors open at 12 to sign up for public comments. Will public comments make a difference, or have minds been made up? People think minds have been made up and there's no need to come to the meetings. Is that a myth, or from your perspective? And if it's a myth, why?
I think it's a myth. We wouldn't be doing our job if we were just committed and cemented to what we've done thus far. I think that we've done a phenomenal job with the drafts that we have, but the process is the process for us to continue to build communal voice. And so if we hear something that we're able to shift or switch in a way that makes things more equitable, that unites more voices, that really elevates a community. I can't speak for the rest of the commissioners, but I know that we'll do the same thing that we did in that first round, which is take it in consideration, deliberate, and discuss what those changes might look like moving forward.
Commissioner,
I agree with Commissioner Kellom. We do listen and we do read the comments that come across the portal. We had 16 meetings before, and we listened then. We're going to have 5 meetings now. And all you have to do is look at the number of maps that we're bringing to these 5 meetings. If they were a done deal, we'd bring one for the House and one for the Senate and one for the Congress, and say, here they are, folks. Hope you like them. But we've brought out a number of maps, and several of the commissioners have, in fact, put forth their own maps. And so we are looking for comment to see what people think of the various maps. And then we'll go back and we'll take a look and we'll listen and we'll reconsider what we've done. And if we need to make changes, we'll make changes. But eventually we're going to have to settle on 3 maps, one for the House, one for the Senate, and one for Congress.
Rebecca Islam says, not a redistricting question. Just want to say, I hope you and your fellow commissioners are taking time for yourselves. We know this is a lot for you commissioners who are also everyday people. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. That means a lot.
A lot of people are looking at the maps, and we're hearing more engagement, more media coverage with regards to the commission's work. What would you say to those who are basically running to the media and, making a ruckus, I should say, with regards to sounding the alarm, but haven't provided fair maps, whether it's in the public comment portal or even come to a meeting to address the commission to provide public comment? What do you say to those type of people?
Well, I would say they should have watched what we did when we were drawing these maps. It was all on the internet in live time, real time, and there was a lot of give and take and debate on where we drew different districts, either for the House, for the Senate, or for Congress. And there were considerations given for all of the items that we needed, all of the amendment requirements that we needed, the Voting Rights Act, the population, all of that stuff. Communities of interest were all considered. And what we saw, and I think that people need to keep in mind, is we have to consider the entire state, 10 million people. And we can't consider 2 blocks in downtown Traverse City. We have to consider how that affects that whole area. And then once we consider that, how it affects the area next door and the area below that. And when we started, and I think I can speak for every commissioner, we had no clue as to how hard this was going to be. And it is quite difficult.
I agree, Commissioner Lett.
And as the gal just said, we're taking care of ourselves. We can only do the best job we can, and that's what we're trying to do. And we realize going in that we are not going to please everybody, and we may not please anybody, but we will have done what the amendment required us to do as citizens. And we did not listen to any politicians. If any showed up, and a few did, they made their comments just like they have a right to. We took those into consideration, but we did not consider any candidates, potential candidates, incumbents, anything like that.
And I'll just echo a little bit of what Commissioner Lett said. You know me, Edward. I welcome a little ruckus, and I think a little ruckus is a part of the job. It's a part of the journey when you're truly reimagining change. And in our case specifically, we're reimagining Michigan. So folks are going to do what they're used to doing, and the media is always a captive audience. But in this case, you have citizens, almost like your neighbors, your brethren, who are a captive audience as well. Many of our livelihoods, we come from different lived history. So I encourage people to continue to share their thoughts with the commission and tell us, because this is a chance where their voice can be heard, and not to be caught up in the distraction of any individual commissioner, of anything that has basically been the subject other than redistricting and drawing these lines. So that's what I would say about the media and folks' opinions. They're welcomed. This is all a part of the process, but we have to stay steadfast to the destiny, which is redistricting, and doing it in an equitable way.
We have a comment. Let's see what it is.
Dun, dun, dun.
This gentleman says, I did watch. That's why I have a problem. So I'm assuming he's watched online. This is Anthony, but we do not have enough information to address his question.
Anthony sounds familiar to me. I feel like he's been one of our public commenters, but I could be incorrect. There could be lots of Anthonys.
Anthony, if you want to elaborate, we'll be more than happy to take your question. We do not duck, hide, or run from any question. This is all done in an open and transparent manner. So if you have a question, no matter how egregious it can be or how complimentary, if that's such a word can be, we are here to take those questions. One of the reasons why we want to have candid conversations, so you can get to know the people who make in the decision, the MICRC, directly for yourself. You can hear directly from them. Ask them questions, get a feel for who they are, because they are truly everyday citizens, just like you and I. And they just have a tough job to do in a very limited time frame. But the goal is always the same, to draw fair maps through public engagement. One of the things that are taking place under the commission's direction is having a public portal station at each of our public hearings, where people who may want to wait in line or don't have time to wait in line can actually comment and have assistance, whether they're Michigan State University students, go green, go white, or whether they're the maize and blue as it relates to University of Michigan, will be assisting. The public portal station will be open from 12 to 8, and it will be have a recess between 3:30 to 4:30. So if you need assistance and provide a testimony or drawing maps, come to the TCF Center On Wednesday, on Thursday, we'll be at the Lansing Center. On Friday, we'll be at Grand Rapids at the Voss Place in the Steelcase Ballroom. And on Monday, we will be at the Treetops Resort in Gaylord. And on Tuesday, we'll be at the Dort Financial Center in Flint. Oh, here it is right here. What is your logic behind unpacking the minority majority districts in the Detroit area? That's more of a deliberation question, but we can definitely talk about the 7 redistricting criteria in ranked order. And maybe what we can hear from your perspective, both Commissioner Kellom and Lett, about why the 7 ranked criteria is so important and how does it hopefully reach the goal of preventing gerrymandering. Commissioner Lett?
Well, we have to look at the Voting Rights Act as number 1. That's the federal statute that controls redistricting throughout the United States. And basically, it says one person, one vote. And so we are first and foremost spreading districts out equally as possible within a very small plus or minus percentage. We take into consideration the compactness. We take into consideration the communities of interest. We do not take into consideration incumbents or candidates or political parties. So those are what we look at and what we are guided by. We, in that regard, the Voting Rights Act, just to say a brief statement about packing or unpacking, the Voting Rights Act addresses that. And for some of the areas in Detroit, we had to pay special attention to those. And we have a Voting Rights Act attorney on board, and we followed his advice and worked with him in coming up with what we came up with.
I'll also say that, the 7 ranked criteria provides a rubric of how we will draw those equitable maps. And again, I'll highlight what Commissioner Lett said earlier about we have to draw the entire state, right? So it's kind of like if you just concentrate on one area, that will have a domino effect on the entire state. And I think, just to touch on it lightly, not to get into too much trouble, but I think the gentleman said an important word: unpack. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. There are ripple effects that can be created by spreading different populations throughout the state that would allow more representation than maybe we think just by looking at the maps at first glance. So I would go back to also my original thing of really take a good look at what we've created, not with kind of the old set of eyes and expectations that the commission's going to mess it up or we've done something to disenfranchise. Try to look at it with new eyes. And we truly did follow the constitutional criterion that we were given.
Well, it's clear that people can still draw their own maps. If they don't think they don't like the map of the commission, they can still draw their own maps and present them through the public comment portal, or if they want to do it through written testimony, or if they want to come tomorrow, they can actually do that. Here's a follow-up. He just says, thank you for mentioning that. It seems that people don't consider the entire state where you're drawing these districts.
And I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump. That's kind of the entire point. If we had done certain things in certain areas, it would have just destroyed communities of interest and some of the criterion that we work so hard to follow.
Yeah, if you're going to come in and draw a map for your little area that you think should be drawn, my comment would be, don't forget the UP.
It's literally like paint yourself in the corner. When you mop your room, you want to start in a way so that you don't end up walking across your floor. So, yep.
We got lots. If you looked at the portal, people would give us maps all the time, and they would consist of here is XYZ
Our area.
county. It should be kept intact. Okay, but what are you going to do with ABC County and DEF County and HIJ County?
And the geography of Michigan. If we took everyone's maps, we would end up, I don't know which shape. It wouldn't be a mitten.
It's difficult. While we appreciate what you're saying, we can't follow exactly what you would like us to follow, because we have to consider everybody around you in the entire state.
Absolutely. Which is an astronomically tough job.
And then we do have 3 tests for partisan fairness, and those are available if you would like to see those tests on our website, www.michigan.gov/MICRC, and click on proposed draft maps, and you can see the partisan fairness scores for each of the collaborative maps that have been submitted. Those are 10, as well as the individual maps that were provided by individual commissioners. Anthony did come back and said, thank you for your time. He was just expecting more drafts, different configurations, like 6 out of 7 congressionals have the same grouping for District 1. I believe that's probably the UP that he's referring to with regards to that, in terms of the different configurations. But we were kind of limited with the UP. Would you not say so, Commissioner Lett?
Certainly you are, and we did in fact try a number of different maps in the UP, and I quite frankly advocated for one, and once I took a second look at it, we had to reach almost down into Detroit to equalize the population, and that just wasn't going to work. So while it looks a lot the same, it probably got tweaked around the edges, and there's just, with the population restrictions that we have to deal with, there's only so much that you can do. I think there are some variations that we have put forth in the 10 maps, but basically they're going to look, District 1's going to look relatively the same.
Well, we want to thank our listening audience for being with us today and joining us on Candid Conversations with Commissioner Kellom and Commissioner Lett, and want to remind you that our public hearings, our second round of public hearings, kick off tomorrow. I repeat, kick off tomorrow at Detroit at the TCF Center, starting at 1:00 p.m. Once again, starting at 1:00 p.m. Our kickoff for the second round of public hearings starts tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. at the TCF Center in Detroit. We look forward to seeing each and every one of you. And if you're listening for the first time, this is our second edition. We'll be back on next week and introduce you to some more commissioners from the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Once again, thank you so much, Commissioner Kellom. Thank you so much, Commissioner Lett, for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Edward.
This is fun.
Thanks everybody for looking in.